If you're a hardcore fan of the sport and you follow the storylines day in and day out, watch all the interviews, read all the articles, watch all the UFC embeddits, never miss an event, and spend an untold amount of time consuming MMA content, and you've never been to a UFC event in person before, do yourself a favor and go out of your way to attend a big event. Of course, it's far easier said than done for a lot of us. There's a meaningful percentage of the fan base that lives nowhere near where any UFC event ever takes place, and between the amount of time and cost it would take to travel, the costs for accommodations and tickets and food, etc., attending a UFC event in person simply isn't feasible, and many are lucky if they ever get to attend one fight in their lifetime. But if you've never done it before and it's in the cards to maybe be able to work it somehow, pull the trigger, because you will not regret it. If you're a die-hard fan, there is nothing in this world like seeing a UFC event for the very first time. I'll never ever forget my first experience. It was UFC 148 in July 2012, Silva vs. Sonnen 2. And at that point in my life, I've been following the sport religiously for about 7 years. And the anticipation for the moment in which I would touch down in Las Vegas and head to the MGM Grand was crazy. It was International Fight Week as well, so it was going to be my first time ever being in an environment where I would be in the same room as a lot of the people that I've been following for all these years. In the 9 hours travel it took to get to Vegas, I kept wondering who would be the first person I recognize. I knew it was inevitable that I would eventually see somebody, considering the better part of the entire roster was set to descend on Vegas that weekend. But who was it going to be? I get there on a Thursday and check into my hotel at Mandalay Bay and just start walking towards the MGM Grand where the arena is just to check out the scene. It sounds so cliche to say, but even 2 days before fight day and there was totally a buzz in the air. As I'm walking through the food court section, I look to my left and there's Nate Diaz with a big smile on his face, book bag on his back, and I get the impression that he's talking with fans just by the looks of things. And even all those years ago, I remember thinking, shit, he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. So I continue on through where the Mandalay converges with the MGM Grand, and I enter part of the casino where the escalators are, and there's literally not a single person to be seen with the exception of 2 people riding the escalator across from me. I look over and it's Firas Zahabi and Rory McDonald. I couldn't help but acknowledge them with a nod and a wave. They waved back. It doesn't sound like much, but for someone who had been just obsessing over sport and the careers of these guys for so long, this is an amazing experience. So when I'm done looking around, I start heading back towards my room. This time heading up the escalator. Once again, a completely barren area of the casino where there are just 2 other individuals on the escalator across from me. I glance over and it's Crazy Bob Cook and a very highly touted heavyweight Strikeforce fighter, Daniel Cormier. It was a pretty cool intro into Fight Week. Never mind experiencing the, at the time, biggest weigh-in UFC history for the much anticipated rematch of Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen. The weigh-in itself was an incredible spectacle. I feel like people who are lucky enough to attend a lot of UFC events or have attended a lot of UFC events in the past have a hard time understanding how incredible it is for a diehard fan to see an event for the very first time. It's interesting to see how the show is ran with television production completely removed from the equation. You really get to understand how raw the experience of these sanctioned fights really are. Just seeing the octagon in person for the first time is something special. Let alone when the show starts. They play the promos on the big screens, and then you see the fighters and their teams just roll out of the bowels of the arena without any commentary. In a way, it sort of gives you insight into how serious and real this thing really is. It's something that cannot be captured by watching at home, and it really gives you a whole new appreciation for what it is these athletes are doing. Which is why I urge you to go to an event if you haven't went before. You know what would be an insane / mind-blowing event to see for the first time? UFC 229 McGregor vs. Khabib. I know it's only a short time away, and if you're listening to this video and you've never been to an event before, but you were thinking about going, just go ahead and book the flights and buy the tickets. Even if it's outside your means, it's an experience that you'll never forget for the rest of your life. There's going to be a whole lot of hoopla and promotion, and God knows what is going to happen in this lead up to UFC 229. But when we get past all the pre-fight business and arrive at Fight Week, forget it. It's going to be the most insane thing ever. Us MMA fans are going to be buzzing like crazy. The amount of excitement that UFC 229 Fight Week is going to elicit from fans is going to be unlike anything we've all experienced in a very, very long time. It's going to serve as a reminder of how big the sport really can be. UFC 229 is an international event. And to be there in person, and for it to be your first time ever attending an event, there's not many things in this world you could do that would bring you as much excitement as you'll experience when that moment comes, when both fighters make the walk and the cage door shuts. If you've been following this sport for a long time and it's something that you really love, you deserve to experience it at peak form, which is in person. Go ahead and treat yourself.